All right, today we're going to dive into a story. But this isn't just any story. It's a tale of rebellion, of total anarchy, really, all started by a single cell that decides to go completely rogue and break all the rules. Yeah, we're talking about the story of cancer. And it all kicks off with a really simple but super important question.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, right? And they're all part of this incredibly organized society, all dividing and living by a strict set of rules. So, does the system that keeps all that in check, this whole cycle of life and death for cells, does it really matter?
Well, if you were to ask an oncologist that question, you wouldn't even get a pause. They'd give you a simple two-word answer.
It would be a resounding yes. Absolutely 100% yes. Because when that control system breaks down, that's when things go horribly wrong. In fact, that failure, well, that's the very definition of cancer.
So when we strip it all down, that's what cancer is. It's a disease of cells just dividing, completely out of control. And it happens when the cell cycle regulators, you can think of them as the traffic cops of your body, directing when cells should grow and when they should stop, when they start getting their signals all mixed up. And usually that's because of changes or mutations in their DNA.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this renegade cell, we first have to understand what the rules are in the first place, right? So let's talk about the good guys, the law-abiding citizens of this cellular society, our normal, healthy cells.
See, normal cells, they play by a very strict set of rules. For one, they need permission to divide. They have to get a specific signal called a growth factor telling them it's okay to go. They also respect personal space. If they get too crowded and start touching their neighbors, they just stop diverting. It's a thing called contact inhibition. Plus, they don't live forever. They've got a limited lifespan, maybe 40 to 60 divisions, and that's it. And maybe the most important rule of all, if their DNA gets seriously messed up, they do the honorable thing and take one for the team. They actually self-destruct. It's a process called apoptosis.
And that brings us to the renegades, the cancer cells. What makes them different is that they look at that rule book and they just toss it right out the window.
So, rule number one they break, they don't wait for permission to divide. A normal cell needs that external go signal, that growth factor, to get started. But a cancer cell? Nah, it basically hotwires the whole system. It can start making its own growth factors, or maybe its internal wiring gets stuck in the on position. Either way, it's green lights all the time.
And you can see here, this difference is just huge. On one side, you've got normal cells patiently waiting for their signal. On the other, cancer cells have just given themselves a permanent green light. They've gone totally independent, and that's really the first big step towards chaos. Okay, next up, personal space. Cancer cells have none. You know how we said normal cells stop dividing when they get crowded? That's contact inhibition. Well, cancer cells totally lose that. They just keep pushing and dividing, literally piling on top of each other, forming these messy, chaotic clumps.
But maybe the scariest rule they break is this. They refuse to die. A normal cell with really bad DNA damage knows what to do. It flips a self-destruct switch called apoptosis. It's a critical safety feature, right? It stops a damaged cell from making more damaged cells. But cancer cells, they just ignore those signals. They hold on, keep on dividing, and pass all that broken DNA down to their kids, creating a whole new generation of these renegade cells.
And this image really shows that fork in the road. It's a crucial moment. The normal cell makes a sacrifice for the greater good, protecting the whole body. The cancer cell, though, it just selfishly plows forward, making sure its flawed blueprint gets copied over and over, which just leads to more and more chaos down the line.
And all this rule breaking gives them a whole toolkit of dangerous new powers. First, they basically become immortal. They use this enzyme, telomerase, to get around the normal aging process that tells cells when it's time to stop dividing. Second, they learn how to travel. They can break away, migrate through the body, and start new tumors elsewhere. That's what we call metastasis. And third, they can actually trick the body into building new blood vessels just for them to feed their growing tumor. It's a process called angiogenesis.
So the big question is, how does a normal, law-abiding cell turn into this master criminal? Well, it's not something that happens overnight. It's more like a complex, multi-step heist, where a whole bunch of things have to go wrong one after another.
And the key to this whole heist? It's something called a mutation. A mutation is just a change in a cell's DNA. But here's the thing. One single mutation is almost never enough to cause cancer. It's the buildup, the accumulation of multiple mutations over time that finally pushes a cell over the edge into becoming cancerous. This visual here lays out that journey perfectly. So we start with a healthy, normal cell. Then, bam, the first mutation hits. Let's say it knocks out one of the safety mechanisms, kind of like cutting the brakes on a car. So now the cell divides a little more than it's supposed to. Then a second mutation happens. This one jams the gas pedal down. Now we've got a cell that's not only dividing too much, it's accelerating. And then maybe a third mutation comes along and fires the repair crew, the part of the cell that's supposed to fix DNA errors. And that's when things get really dangerous. Now, at this earlier stage, after just one or two of those hits, what you might get is what we call a benign tumor. These are cells that are definitely dividing way too much, but they haven't learned how to spread yet. They're causing trouble, for sure, but at least they're still contained in one place. But as more mutations pile up, the cells can finally get all the powers of a full-blown cancer cell. And that's when you get a malignant tumor. This is the real danger. It's a group of cells that not only divides like crazy, but now has the ability to invade other tissues and spread around the body. And this can lead to a terrifying tipping point. See, if one of those mutations hits a gene that's responsible for genome stability, remember our DNA repair crew, then the whole process just kicks into overdrive. With nobody around to fix the mistakes, new mutations start piling up way, way faster. It's like putting the whole transformation on a fast track to full-blown cancer. So that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to end on. If cancer is really a story, a step-by-step process of a cell going rogue and accumulating errors, well, that completely changes how we think about fighting it, doesn't it? The question for us and for scientists becomes, where in this story, which chapter, which broken rule, which specific mutation, where is the best place for us to jump in and rewrite the ending?